Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Catherine Haleko and I'm here with Terri Morrow. Say hi, Terri.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast we talk about parenting issues, but once a week Terri and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books. No, books are rare, that's why that word didn't want to come out.
That's right.
And other entertainment topics, such as they are. But we do this because sometimes it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change.
Yes.
So this week we're going to discuss the West Wing episode, The Women of Qumar, and our challenge round viewing of Cougar Town, a couple episodes of Cougar Town. But first, Master of None.
Yes.
This was the second episode of the second season called Le Nozze.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very nice. I'm glad you had this in the script and not me.
I believe that's how you say it, and I think it means the wedding.
Oh, okay. I thought it was maybe the nose, and then I couldn't figure out what that had to do with anything. The wedding makes much more sense.
Yeah. So that's because in this episode, Dev's friend Arnold comes over to Italy to visit him and to go to a wedding. And it turns out the wedding is of his ex-girlfriend who looked a lot like Natalie Morales, but wasn't her.
She did.
And I still enjoyed this quite a bit, but I had some logistical questions. First of all, partway through the episode, Arnold does admit to Dev that Ellen, I think her name was Ellen, was his ex-girlfriend. And he said they were in a relationship for 11 years. And this is the first Dev is hearing of this?
Yes, that seems unusual.
That didn't make any sense.
What is the level of their friendship? I think I remember seeing him from the first episodes I watched of the first season, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't think
like
he was his closest.
friends.
Are they best friends? The sight gag of the two of them together is quite hilarious and worth the price of admission right there. I feel like that in a large amount of my life, that much smaller than other people. So it was fun seeing that.
Yes, if you haven't seen it, it's like the Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Yes, a challenge for the cinematographer to get them in the same frame.
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to be very close friends.
Yes, okay.
So,
well, then that seems ridiculous that he would not know. Did he just not know who's... It's not just that Dev didn't know whose wedding it was. It's that... Because he had to explain what the relationship was, right?
He didn't know that Arnold had even had this relationship at all. I mean, how old
strange.
Are they that that much time would have passed between the 11-year relationship?
Not only would there be no overlap between their relationship, but that it never came up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
There's no pictures, in the guy's apartment.
Right, but there are on his phone.
That's right.
So
tons. Yes, that was. Now that you mention it, it did not strike me at the time, but now that you mention it, it's strange. I guess I didn't realize what level their friendship was supposed to be.
Right, and then to top it off, on the day of the wedding, they go to the wedding. Arnold has kind of a meltdown, so they leave, they rent mopeds, they drive all over, they taste cheese, they go out to lunch, and then they come back and the wedding's still going on.
Yes.
And in fact, they're surprised that they missed some of it.
Yes. Yes.
Like, how
that
long
also,
exactly
that
was
one
this
did
wedding?
strike me. I thought that did seem odd. They're just now doing the toast?
Right.
How long was this ceremony?
Right. So, those two things were jarring to me, but I still enjoyed the episode because, like you said, the two of them have a fun relationship, and it's just not that frequent on television to see two guys having a friendship, talking about serious things, supporting each other. They're not like just bros.
Right.
They actually have like an in-depth friendship, which is why it's all the more weird that Dev never heard of this person.
Exactly. Yes. And I enjoyed the scene where the car got stuck. I thought that was quite hilarious. And because I often feel that I am getting into such a situation. That would be my nightmare too. That you're stuck. You can't get. I don't have a sunroof, so I guess I can crawl out a window. But also there are advantages to being the little guy. It's just like Goes out of the window to the sunroof. Bye. That was fun.
Having driven in Italy last summer, I can attest that it is stressful. Like, you know, the way people drive and the tight quarters that you have to get through.
Yeah. Well, I didn't drive when I was in Italy, but my dentist's old office used to have a very narrow driveway between a wall and a fence, and I once scraped up the side of my car on it, so I relate. Never got stuck, but that turn, I'm like, no, go back.
Don't do that. And the way Arnold just panicked, like, no, where's the hook? Where's the just screaming. Oh,
and then the car is coming in behind. Now, I would totally react exactly that way.
Yeah.
So that was fun, and I like the way that it kind of wrapped up with Dev realizing he has to move on and he should stop flirting by phone with his old girlfriend. And that, you know, it was I felt like generally a lighter episode than the first one, more not slapsticky exactly, but more jokey and fun, but it still had this serious undercurrent of, you know, moving on with your life, and are you ever going to find the right person for you, and what does it mean if you don't, and is it okay to just be having fun, or should you be looking for something more serious? So that was a nice mix, I thought.
Yeah. Yep. And then it ends with Dev back in New York and combining his two interests by hosting a cooking show.
Yeah, which is, I'm trying to think what podcast I heard talk about it. I think it was on TV Avalanche where they were saying, you know, there actually is a Cupcake Wars. This isn't like they're presenting it as this, you know, what a silly thing he's now doing. And so, well, yeah, that's exactly like a silly thing that exists, but okay.
Right. So we'll have to
Should have been pasta related, right?
I know, but still, you can't have everything.
I guess it doesn't come quite that full circle, but I did enjoy it.
You cannot have it all.
I think you should find as many opportunities to just drop that into general conversation as possible. That's quite wonderful.
It's a
both useful and fun to say.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I love it, and Dev loves it too.
Yes. I expect to hear more of that. So. So that was fun. I enjoyed watching that. I'll be interested to see how the third one is.
Yeah. So next time in a few weeks, we'll watch.
We'll get to that at the end of the show.
we'll watch the next episode of that one.
Yes.
But for now, we will move on to the West Wing.
Yeah.
This week's episode is the Women of Qumar, which is not a beloved one like last week's Butterball Turkey on one.
Yeah, I have to say I was very relieved to listen to the West Wing Weekly podcast and to find out that I am not the only one who finds it problematical. I think, as I recall back in the days when I watched this the first time, and I was also reading the Television Without Pity boards, I think this was not well received there either, as I recall, on various levels. So, you know, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it wasn't as bad as I remembered. It was slightly different than I remembered. I thought CJ was discovering this stuff and she already knew it, and apparently all the women in the White House knew it and are giving Bartlett the stink eye, which is, ugh.
Yeah.
But I love CJ so much, but I was so uncomfortable with her for so much of this show.
Yeah.
When she goes in and dumps this stuff on the veterans. And then when she's giving lip to Nancy McNally, who should have just slapped her.
I know. When she started saying that stuff about apartheid, I was like, is anyone else hearing this? You can't, what? You know, that was very, very weird. And
Nancy just goes, whatever.
Right. She's just like, I'm not even having this conversation, which is kind of what the rest of us were thinking.
Yes. Calm down, girl. I mean... It's like, politics is sometimes annoying and uncomfortable, and sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do. Are you new to the job?
Right. Yeah. And I really agreed with, on the podcast, the way they said, you know, why couldn't someone other than CJ on the staff be the one who was upset about
that could have been
women.
Sam's plot line. Just reverse those two.
It would have very easily worked for Sam. It would have been right in his character.
Yes.
And he hasn't had that much to do, so, like, give him that.
Right. And he's already been smacked down by Nancy McNally once, so she could easily done it again.
Right. Yeah.
That's always fun.
Yeah, we like to watch that. So, yeah, this was difficult. And I felt like every thread, every subplot was unsatisfactorily resolved.
Yes.
You know, like,
Agreed.
everyone had to compromise in a way where it just felt like nobody won. Everything was terrible. Like,
I know. Yeah.
Everything stinks. This is just no fun at all.
It really was no fun. It was not much. And we also meet in this episode Amy Gardner, who, spoiler alert, will be around for a while. And
this is Mary Louise Parker playing the head of a women's group.
Yeah, I like Mary Louise Parker, but that character is problematic in a women written by Sorkin kind of way. Mm-hmm. And will continue to be.
Yeah.
And her performance of it is somewhat stylized, which I never could quite figure out. But get used to her. She's the new Mandy. So.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
She's the new foil for Josh. So, yeah. No hard feelings, but this was not the greatest introduction.
Right. Yeah, and just overall, the whole thing was just hard to get through, kind of.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad. This is what Allison Janney won the Emmy for.
Yeah.
I guess it's an Emmy sort of episode, but she's been so good in so many episodes that were so much better for her character.
Right.
I will say it gets way better next week. Next week is Bartlett for America, and that is a standout episode from this season, featuring John Spencer. Just a great Leo episode. Joanna Gleason, who you may know from many things, is in it as his lawyer. And then there's a subplot that brings back Clark Gregg as the FBI guy we saw back in Somebody's Going to Emergency, Somebody's Going to Jail. So it's got it's really, really good. So I'm excited about that. It's like, oh, do I have to watch this one first? Okay. Right. I'll take my medicine.
Yeah.
And then we get to watch that acting showcase. Good. So you will enjoy it. And it's also one that has flashbacks to the campaign, which is always fun. So lots of good stuff next week. Hold on.
Good.
Keep the faith.
Yeah, the West Wing Weekly podcast this week was a good one to listen to in conjunction with this episode, just because they articulated a lot of the issues that I had and you had, and then you got to hear from Allison Janney and people talking about human trafficking and prostitution.
Fun,
but I did find them to be enlightening.
Yeah. I particularly enjoyed not enjoyed, that is not the right word, was moved by the guy who was on talking about human trafficking, particularly of children, and that why you don't want to legalize prostitution is because then you will make it safe for people to sell children. Right. And he went and he rescued kids by himself, and now he's adopting them, and that's a person who's putting his he's putting his money where his mouth is, He's really in it. And, I can feel that.
Right.
So that was a difficult episode and a darker episode of the podcast, but still certainly worth it and good. Anybody who's watching these episodes should be listening to the podcast along with them, because it's a really nice companion.
It really is.
Especially when they agree with you on the quality of the episode.
And it's good for me, having not watched the show before. Yeah. To kind of get another take on it and get some more background. And it's helpful.
I enjoyed Stalker Channing's, 3-minute part of the episode. She just kind of drops in to these episodes to make her contractual number of appearances, probably.
Well, and it was
that scene with Josh was fairly delightful.
It was. His responses to her were quite good. So
yes, and there's better episodes with her coming up. There's one, I can't think of what the name of it is, but It might be Dead Irish Writers. I'm not sure. But anyway, that's quite wonderful. That involves all the women. I'm looking forward to watching that again. But anyway, so we have to, we'll talk at the end of the episode about what's coming up next for that. But anything else on this particular episode you want to say?
No. Let's leave it behind.
Yes. Less said, the better.
That's right. We're going to move on to our challenge round in a completely different tone and vein.
Yes.
Is the sitcom Cougar Town.
Hardly be further away from the Women of Qumar.
That's right.
So
you challenged me to watch a couple episodes.
Yes. Cougar Town is a series I enjoyed very much, in somewhat of the same vein as Parks and Recreation, because it was just a show that made me feel good. It was happy. The people were mostly happy. They did fun things together, and it was just, I don't know if I would say escapist now. Yeah. And just a fun thing to watch. And so I've been trying to think of a way to use it here in the challenge round. So I picked basically 3 episodes out of season 3 that I could remember. Oh yeah, there was the one, where they teepee a house and then he proposes to her. And there was the one where Bobby goes on this horrible date. And then there was the one where there was a hurricane. So I kind of picked those out. They were all in the same season. And I watched them again and enjoyed them very much. And I hope that you did too, even though you had some delivery problems.
Yes. So I was pleased to find that I could get them from my library. And because you kindly picked 3 from the same season, I could just get the whole season on DVD from the library. So I did. I ordered it, put it on hold, picked it up, and put the disc in the DVD player, and it only had 4 episodes on it because it was only part of the season.
It was disc 2 of 2.
Yeah. So I could only watch 1 episode on the DVD, which was Down South, the hurricane one.
That's right.
And then I had to watch somebody's crummy pirated version on YouTube for the other 2, which worked out fine. I mean, I could definitely get the gist of it, but yeah, that was annoying on the part of my library. Yes.
They're not. Make sure they don't blame you for taking the disc.
I mean, it says right on it, like, disc 2. It's just, I don't know.
Oh, not right.
Yeah. So it may have been user error. I don't know. Maybe it said on there, disc 2, season 3. I don't know.
Well, let me say the 3 titles that we watched, and I'll give the little description that's on the paper insert of my Cougar Town season 3 set with 2 discs in it that I bought from Amazon for like $6. So the first episode we watched is called Ain't Love Strange. It's the first episode of season 3. And the description is, Jules is miffed when Grayson, who has an ulterior motive, calls her predictable. Ellie frets that little Stan is turning into a devil child, or even worse, could grow up to be like Lori. Travis likes his new off-campus housing until Bobby tries to convince him to take Dog Travis in. The second episode we watched was One Story Town, in which Jules and the gang decide Bobby needs some help romancing Angie, so they launch Operation Kiss the Girl. Meanwhile, other former Scrubs cast members turn up as Ted and the Peons pass through on their way to an audition at Disney World. And the third episode was, as you mentioned, Down South. A hurricane blows into town, so that means it's time for a hurricane party at Jules's house. But there's more than one storm brewing as Travis wants to make a play for Lori now that she's broken up her Skype romance with Soldier Wade, and Jules is determined to keep them apart. So what did you think of these episodes? I hope you enjoyed them. They're very silly. But
they're very silly and fun. I did enjoy them. I thought that the first one, Ain't Love Strange, was a pretty good way to meet the characters. So,
right.
Because it was I believe the first episode of that season, it kind of outlined here are who the people are. And they were funny.
Yeah.
And then in the second one, which was the one where they try to get Bobby to kiss the girl, it was fun that this is Jules' ex-husband and the father of her son, and she's determined to help him out. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah, and I love the way the joke of having the a cappella group there pays off at the end so beautifully with them singing in the thing.
Right.
And an excellent use of the weird neighbor.
To explode the crowd whenever they need.
Yes. Yeah, I really liked him. He's really, for most of the series, he was just outside the window.
Right.
But towards the end, I think once they went over to TBS, I think he got to be a regular part of the crew. But right now, he's still sort of tolerated. As long as he stays outside. Or performs a useful function.
Like
it's nicely integrated in this one.
In Down South, which is the final episode, he's boarding up the windows for the hurricane, and he just never gets to come inside.
No. But so
yeah, it's a fun group of people, and you have to kind of look past the fact that one couple has a small child that is just like almost never around.
Is rarely seen. I had forgotten when I suggested that episode that Stan was even in it. I had forgotten about that plot line. Every now and then he pops up as the devil baby. Most of the time he's with Rosa while they're next door drinking
wine and making up funny songs.
And he does actually have a job, I think. At one point he runs for mayor, but yeah, you have to like kind of suspend disbelief.
Right.
Yeah, of course Grayson owns a bar, but the rest of them, Jules supposedly is a real estate agent. I think there was a lot more of that earlier on, and then at some point they just said, you know what? This is most fun when they're just sitting around and nobody cares what they do for a living. Right. It's fine. They just have money.
Right.
So but I really enjoyed watching these again, and I had not watched it since it went off the air, so I started watching videos to try to figure out which one to suggest, and then I fell into a Cougar Town hole. I've been watching scenes and scenes and scenes, and these three were as wonderful as I remembered them. And
and you sent me some video little compilations of, one was about just them drinking, and then the other one was some of the funny songs, and those were clever. Those were fun to watch.
Yes, maybe we'll link to those from the show notes for anybody who wants to watch a little more. So if anybody has watched these episodes with us and wants to watch more Cougar Town, you could probably skip the first season. But I think I started watching somewhere in the second season, and I remember this season very strongly, so it might have been the one that I just completely came aboard on. For those, if you're not going to watch anymore, I will say that Travis and Lori do finally get together. So by the end of the series, they have a baby.
Oh, wow.
So, Jules' prediction that Travis got Lori pregnant comes to fruition. Just takes a few seasons to get there. But
so we decided, as we've been hinting throughout this podcast, because of just travel and logistics, we are going to skip the next 2 weeks of round 2 podcast. We will still have, for the most part, our regular podcasts, but we will not be doing a round 2 for the next 2 Tuesdays.
Yes, we will take off 1 week of regular podcasts, but we'll take off 2 weeks of round 2s. So keep watching your West Wings every week and listen to the podcast, as we will. Right. But we will talk about them in when we come back. We will talk about Bartlett for America and the episode that follows it.
Con 172, and that will be on June 27th. And then the following week we'll do the next 2 episodes of West Wing. So we'll do 2 weeks of 2 episodes just to get caught back up. So we'll do that, and we'll do just 1 episode of Master of None for June 27th, and we'll also skip having a challenge round.
Although, should we say if the following week we're also doing 2 West Wings, should we skip the challenge round that week too? Let's say our challenge for those 2 weeks is going to be to fit in 2 episodes of West Wing. Let's say that the next challenge, 2 things. So we're talking now a month from now, right? All right. So the next challenge is going to be the book,
right?
The Royal We, right?
Yep.
That gives me a month to read it and pressure and a deadline. Because if we say, whenever you get this read, we'll have it as a challenge round. It will be in, 2032. So let's say that. I will make that commitment. Do you want to tell them a little bit about that book?
Yeah. So the book is called The Royal We. It is by the Fug girls who write the blog Go Fug Yourself, which I have mentioned many times and I enjoy very much and have for years. They wrote 2 young adult novels that I did not read, but then they wrote this one that came out maybe a year or 2 ago. I honestly can't remember anymore. 2 years, I think. It's sort of a riff and a takeoff on the story of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, William and Kate, because it is about a British prince who meets, in this case, an American girl in school, which is what happened with William and Kate, although Kate was not an American, but she was a commoner. But they met in college. And so in this case, the American girl has come over to England for study abroad, and she meets his name is Nick in the book. You know, it's just all about like what's the deal with marrying into the royal family and all of the incredible challenges that it poses. And it's just it's romantic, but it's also very funny, and it's really grounded in reality, but it doesn't it's its own story, you know. It's not a complete just retelling of William and Kate. It goes off on its own merry way. So so Terri has it.
I'm making the commitment. I got a month.
Okay, so to recap, we're off for 2 weeks. Then on June 27th, we're going to discuss episode 3 of Master of None, 2 West Wings, which are Bartlett for America and H. Con 172. Okay. Then the next week, the week of July 3rd, 4th, we will do another Master of None and 2 more West Wings, which are 100,000 Airplanes and the 2 Bartletts. And then the next week, July 11th, it will be the week of my birthday. And for that reason, Terri will read a book. So we'll be back to 1 West Wing, 1 Master of None, and
yes. Okay. It's a plan.
Okay. It's a plan.
Y'all have till July 11th to read a book with me.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
See you all then. And that's going to be it for our round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and a chance to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Terri.
Bye, Catherine.
Bye, everyone.